Let's get ready. Game 3 of the second-round series between the Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers, scheduled to get underway later on this afternoon in Edmonton. Daren Millard along with Brian McCormack, nighttime at noon. This will serve as your Realm Report today as well, doing double duty, getting everybody teed up for this pivotal game in this best-of-7 series where teams have split. Vegas scored 6 goals in the first game, and Edmonton replied with 5, so we're looking at the over for game number 3.
I think that's something we kind of figured going into this series, especially with look at what Edmonton did against LA, was they're going to score a lot. You'd better score a lot, and the opportunity to do so may be there. The difference was, and you heard Bruce Cassidy talk about it after Game 2, Vegas didn't have the puck all that much in Game 2, so important day for a bounce back in Edmonton.
You'll hear from Bruce Cassidy, his entire media availability from earlier today in Edmonton. Mark Stone coming up, discussing the attention to the different types of details going into Game 3. Ashley Weiss with Alec Martinez. Dave Gaucher is going to join us from Edmonton. So this is the place to get teed up for everything that is the Vegas Golden Knights going into Game 3 in this series that really is the highest profile of the 4 that remain in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and a series that puts depth against the Stars, and Edmonton Stars have to be contained in some form going forward.
Yeah, so much easier said than done, obviously, and we've known that since October, really, if you look at what Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl did this year. But if you look at what Edmonton's done offensively, so much of it is Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid by proxy, because more often than not it's Connor McDavid setting up Leon Draisaitl. But the secondary depth for the Oilers really hasn't been there. I mean, for the most part throughout the playoffs, it's been Draisaitl, it's been McDavid, it's been Bouchard. And you get a sprinkling of maybe Zach Hyman here, Evander Kane there, but there's been very little from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. There hasn't been the depth conversation, whereas for the Golden Knights up until Game 2, it's been a lot of conversation about the depth and the offense you've gotten from Ivan Barbashev and from Michael Amadio. You've had that depth conversation there. So I think for the Golden Knights, you trust that you wash Game 2 away, you're going to find offensive depth. There's a couple of guys on the VGK side you'd like to get going as well, because you'd like to have a few more horses carrying some of that weight. But without question on the defensive side, figuring out something for Draisaitl, figuring out something for McDavid, and to speak the obvious, staying out of the box as much as you can, which is something the Golden Knights have done so well throughout the year, but hurt them in Game 2.
It's a split going into Edmonton. Let's walk you through the projected lineup for the Vegas Golden Knights, and maybe Brian McCormack can address some of those players that you would like to get a bump out of. Eichel, Barbashev, Marchessault remain together. Carlson with Riley Smith and Michael Amadio. I thought Michael Amadio had spurts in Game 2. Chandler Stevenson with Stone and Howden, and Nick Waugh, Carrier, and Colasar. Leave that up if you're watching on the stream, Floyd, just to walk through some of the forward units right now, Brian.
Yeah, and
no changes.
Yeah, no changes. I think Barbashev's had a great start to the series for sure, but so much of what the Golden Knights have been able to generate has been off of forecheck pressure, and there just wasn't much in Game 2 because the ice was tilted for much of the night. But on top of that, certainly the depth is a strength. You want depth. You want to be able to rely on. Again, if I remember correctly, I think you have Michael Amadio, Brett Howden, Ivan Barbashev, and Keegan Colasar have combined for, I think it's 8 goals now. So, I mean, that's good depth. You'd like to see Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith start to find the back of the net a little bit as well, because that depth is only going to be a strength if you have the regular go-to guys producing as you're familiar with. And for Marchessault, had some good opportunities in Game 1. I think what's going to be interesting for the Golden Knights is how they can get out of their own end, because one of the things that jumped out to me in Game 1 was how much they were able to generate off the rush.
Right.
And it wasn't just carrying with conviction. It was carrying it in over the blue line through the middle of the ice. They were attacking from the inside out, which is opening up those outside lanes. And that was something they didn't really have an opportunity to do in Game 2. So, like you said,
is that just puck possession, the lack of it?
For Game 2, I think so.
Yeah.
I think lack of it, and also the inability to get out of their end cleanly. I mean,
well, let's flip over to the blue line, and again, status quo here. Martinez, Pietrangelo, McNabb with Theodore, Haig, and Whitecloud, and Laurent Brossoit is expected to go for the third straight game of the series.
And again, I think clean zone exits are important. We saw William Karlsson have a breakaway in the first period. It's easy to forget because of the way the rest of the game transpired, but there were transition opportunities in the very, very early portions. But getting out of their own end is going to be more cleanly is going to be important. Because Connor McDavid said before Game 2, we want to have more in-zone possession, we want to work, we want to grind, we want to be more relentless in the offensive zone. They did that. Now, how do you counter that? You're going to counter it with quick puck movement, quick decision-making. And I wonder if as we look at the deep pairs, too, again, this is a VGK blue line that has the opportunity to be physical, be nasty. We saw Game 2 take a bit of a turn towards the gritty and the sandpaper. I wonder if we see that transpire a little bit more, if this series gets a little bit more nastier as we move into Games 3 and 4.
Doesn't really hinge on the standard for the officials. McNabb, that wasn't a typical cross-check in which he gets called early in the first period. He pushes the opponent into the net, net comes off, he gets in the penalty. That could go either way. If you're calling it by a tighter standard, that puts you in a real bind when you're having to kill penalties. Mark Stone is the captain. He addressed the media going into Game 3 tonight. Let's go to Mark Stone.
It's not playing.
Okay, we'll get back to Mark Stone in just a little bit. For some reason, it's not playing. We'll try to get that rectified, because hearing from your captain after a game like that is just gives you a bit of the temperature in the room.
Yeah, it does. But I think the temperature taking after Game 2, right after Game 2, which would have been the more raw audio you're going to get, was honest and accurate too. Where they weren't happy, they didn't think they brought their A game. But I think what we saw from other series is that if you have a rough day like that, you can bounce back quick.
Sorry, Mark, I didn't realize that it was going to be a couple of seconds. He's ready now. Here's the captain.
Yeah, man, it's 1-1, coming out on the road. Had a good meal together yesterday at the hotel, some good meetings, and a few good laughs watching the other games. So, yeah, we're ready to go. Had a good pregame skate and change a few things, get ready to go.
How can you benefit from getting into that every other day rhythm here the rest of the series?
Yeah, short memory, right?
Sorry about that, guys.
We want to try and build a little bit more momentum, have a better start to the game, a little more discipline. I think we got a little carried away there. Got a little frustrated early on in the first, so just got to stick to our game plan and have a good mindset.
How do you view the significance of the first period in particular?
Yeah, we want to have good starts. We had a good start year. The last couple games haven't been great for us. Gotten to some
I guess if that is correct moving forward.
I mean, we're a tight group in here. Obviously Coley's a liked teammate, very well liked teammate, sticks up for his teammates. But at the same time, I think he'll be ready to go tonight. I think he's going to be bringing a physical presence. That whole line, I think, wasn't too happy with what happened at the end of the period, second period there. So, I expect a better effort from the team. I'm not worried about that. This team is close, and I know that Coley's going to bring his physical game tonight.
That addresses what happened between Evander Kane and Keegan Colasar, which was a hot topic, maybe the primary topic outside of the result after game number 2. How do you think that gets addressed tonight in Game 3?
Yeah, to add on to it, one of the things that Bruce Cassidy said in his post-game comments after Game 2, he said one of the things he was disappointed about was that he felt like they got out-teammated. And I think that and subsequent instances is kind of what he was referring to. It just took them too long to get there. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be bothered at all if the VGK came out in Game 3 with a little bit of an edge, a little bit of nastiness, and kind of try to impose a little bit. Now I say that, and then we think about what we heard from the podium, from the microphones, from Evander Kane, from Jay Woodcroft, who almost sounded like they were trying to influence that themselves. I mean, they sounded like a team. They said, "Oh, if they want to run around, we'll do it." Like they kind of seem like they want to turn the temperature up a little bit too. So I don't know who it best behooves. But certainly you need a response, and you've got the likes of your Colasars, your McNabbs. Part of slowing down Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl is having them feel like they can move around a little bit less freely. So I think a little more physicality, a little bit more friction in this series behooves the VGK. It's one of several things to adjust from Game 2, but I don't think it doesn't fit in their favor that this gets a little angrier.
So will it be obvious that they're trying to do that? Maybe a slash or two, both sides after a whistle, or in game?
I think it's between the whistles.
Between the whistles.
I think it's between the whistles, because you mentioned before, what's the standard going to be? And that's any game. You're going to be negotiating that as the game goes along. Hey, ref, what can I get away with tonight? What can't I? But I thought in Game 2, the start for Edmonton was electric, and you kind of knew it was going to be. But when you heard the players after the game talking about the penalties that were taken, it wasn't because Vegas was uncharacteristically undisciplined.
No.
It's because they were under duress. We all make more haphazard decisions when we're under a lot of stress. When the boat is sinking, you're bailing out water. You're not looking to plug the hole. And you look at the penalties they took, it was because they were in scramble mode in their own end. So the important thing for me is that you got to start on time, because being in that scramble mode in your own end, that's going to feed the McDavids and the Draisaitl's. And let's remind ourselves, there's more to the Oiler lineup than that. It's been top heavy, but it's a more talented, deeper roster than that. But if that scramble mode puts you down early, that's a problem. If it puts them on 3 power plays early, that's an even bigger problem. And that's what Game 2 became.
I take issue with the trying to convince everybody that the Oilers are this backfilled lineup until you stop, or those guys stop being so effective. I don't pay any attention to the rest of the lineup,
which is fine. I think what occurs to me is that, okay, Draisaitl and McDavid can't account for 4 goals every night. We're not going to bow to the whim of well, that's just the way it's going to be, and we better score 5. That's not the answer either. But Game 1, if Draisaitl's going to score 4 goals, he better be the only guy that hurts you, and he was. So, I think there's got to be more offensive pushback for sure. I think it's just a matter of when the other ones join the series, be aware of it. And that's why, again, slashes after the whistle, that's going to happen. That's part of every game. Braden McNabb thundering someone coming down the wall, that's going to make a bigger impact to me.
Oilers against the Vegas Golden Knights coming up tonight, and we are looking forward to Game 3 to see the type of response. We saw it following Game 1 against Winnipeg, and that has to be a huge opportunity for Vegas to lean on going into this game number 3, winning 5 games in a row following that dropping of Game 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did they do it? Off of forecheck pressure and creating turnovers and funneling those to the front of the net. You talk about not wanting to talk about Edmonton being backload. I understand, because I look at their blue line and I think of Matthias Ekholm being a really good shutdown defenseman. There's talent on the back end. Darnell Nurse has not had the best couple of playoff games that I've been able to watch where he's in terms of a shutdown role. There's youth in the Desharnais and the Brobergs. I mean, you kind of heard Mark Stone say during his interview just a few moments ago, let's put the puck in their corner. Let's make them make decisions. Let's make them make the perfect play coming out of their end. And when the Golden Knights forecheck got to work against Winnipeg, that's when we saw a lot more opportunities coming from between the hash marks.
We're going to quiz Dave Gosher about game number 3. He is in Edmonton. He will join us in just a little bit. Also, Bruce Cassidy, and you will hear more from Ashley Weiss and Alec Martinez, who had a great conversation going towards this pivotal game, and leaning on Alec Martinez is going to be a thing during the Stanley Cup playoff run. Attention, Golden Knight fans, we need your help in welcoming AFC Bournemouth to the Foley Entertainment Group. Also known as the Cherries, AFC Bournemouth plays in the prestigious English Premier League, where they consistently take on the best football teams in the world. Show your support for the Cherries by catching the matches via stream on Peacock TV. Make sure to also visit the Arsenal at City National Arena to pick up some Bournemouth merch, including jerseys, scarves, flags, mini soccer balls, and lapel pins. To learn more and be part of the club's exciting new era, make sure you visit afcb.co.uk. Up the Cherries. We'll be back with more on Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas and all your VGK channels. Golden Knights into the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Make sure you stay up to date by tuning into the all-new VGK Today podcast. It's all new this year, and it's all new every day. Each episode of the VGK Today will be hosted by a Golden Knights broadcaster that consists of recaps, previews, interviews throughout the entirety of the team's journey in this postseason. New episodes available every morning, waiting in your podcast inbox. So listen to start your day. You can catch VGK Today by visiting your favorite podcast outlet. What's your favorite podcast outlet, McCormack?
I'm a Spotify guy. That's where I've been listening to all of my Darren Millard VGK Today episodes.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin and I have great chemistry, don't you think?
I think Justin is the ultimate setup man.
Yeah. While we wait, let's go to the phone lines and just open things up and take a couple of calls here. Let's go to Dave in Edmonton. Dave, you're on Nighttime at Noon. Well, welcome. You're with Brian McCormack and Daren Millard.
Hi, Brian. Big fan of your work. Hi, boys. How are you? Can I give you a little tease now for tomorrow's VGK podcast?
Yes.
It's my responsibility for tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
We're going to catch up with Brian Boucher from ESPN.
Oh, nice.
He's going to be on the game call tonight. So a fellow Rhode Islander, like myself, half a degree of separation back there. So Bruce connected with him last night, on this morning. So we're going to spend a couple of minutes. It'll be fresh post-game reaction. Right after they're done with their ESPN show, we'll have a little visit and have that for the people tomorrow morning.
Look forward to that. It's the best part about the VGK Today is the instant reaction to everything that happens during this Stanley Cup playoff run. Let's look ahead to tonight and what you expect from. It's the same lineup again for the Vegas Golden Knights, so no adjustments on that side. Where do you see any type of tweaks trying to answer back to the 5-1 defeat in game number 2?
I mean, I think the first thing, Allie, would be an emotional tweak. You know, I just didn't think that, and it's something that Bruce Cassidy mentioned after the game the other day, and he mentioned it again this morning. And you know, the phrase he used this morning was emotion from the start. Yeah, and with some of that the other day, you know, what's first? Was it the emotion, or they didn't have enough emotion? They were on their heels and they took penalties, and then the Oilers capitalized, and we then got away pretty quick. So I think the biggest part would be, you know, emotion right off the bat, and not wait to kind of get dragged into the game. You know, we Cassidy said this morning when it's 5-0, and it's fine, but the game's over. I mean, the time for that is when the game starts. And then I think, you know, that's a fine line between playing with emotion and also playing with discipline. The most frustrating thing for me, guys, I don't know how you felt about it the other day, was the Golden Knights never gave themselves a chance. You know, they took penalties right off the bat, gave up a couple of power play goals, gave up the short-handed goal, and, you know, they never were really in the confidence. So I think it would be emotion, but controlled emotion. You know, Jim Matheson now has been covering the Oilers up here for, I asked him this morning, and he said 50 years. They're going back to you remember that now, back when you were in your 20s. And
I introduced him to the players when he broke in. That's how old I am.
Hi, this is Wayne Gretzky. Yeah. Hi, this is Mark Messier. You know, and he said that he was asking. He talked to Paul Coffey about the Oilers' power play today compared to the one that he was a part of with Gretzky and Curry and Messier and Anderson, and he thought this power play that the Oilers have now was even better and more dangerous, and that's saying something coming from. Then it's kind of like they feel like they're the Harlem Globetrotters when they're on the power play, you know, against the Washington Generals. So try to limit that. I know it's easier said than done, but try to limit that as much as possible.
Dave, just in the interest of limiting Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid in general, easier said than done, of course, otherwise everyone would do it. But one of the things that stood out to me that Bruce Cassidy said after Game 2, he said, if you look at some of the goals we gave up, whether it was 5-on-5 or power play, I'm trying to remember the exact word, but it was to the effect of that they were outwilled. Stuff into the side, that the puck just stayed alive longer than it should have. How much of this for the VGK can improve defensively just by getting more whistles, more clears, just by not allowing plays to live as long as they have around the danger areas in their own end?
Yeah, I think that's all probably part of it, Brian. I think you're exactly right. You know, it's something that John Stevens talks about a lot because he runs the penalty kill. But I guess it's also applicable 5-on-5. Is, the ability to get the puck out of your own end, especially on the penalty kill, get the puck down 200 feet. And, it felt like a couple of the power plays the other day that, never mind getting the puck down 200 feet, it felt like the Golden Knights didn't get out of the neutral zone. So, just constantly under pressure. I think some of that could be low on those slots too. Anytime you can get a whistle, if you need one, take one, to try to settle things down a little bit. They touch a lot on not allowing the Oilers to get into the offensive zone, make them defend as much as possible. So I think that's all, kind of on the table. And I would say this, guys, and we, watched this team all year. I think I had it right that they haven't lost 2 in a row in regulation since the middle of January. They had a 3-game skid. It was all part of that long homestand they had at T-Mobile. So all that being said, look, they split the first 2 games. This is a team that usually responds, to bad games. They don't let it linger too long. So hopefully we'll see what we've seen for the most part this year in a couple of areas. One is the ability to bounce right back, and 2 is they were one of the best road teams in the league all year, including winning up here in overtime the last time they were here last month.
Dave Gaucher is with us on the VGK Inside Show on nighttime at noon.
Dave, just to kind of pile onto that point, I found myself thinking this last night watching the Carolina Hurricanes getting blown out after winning games 1 and 2. The Dallas Stars had a rough night, more so than past playoff series. It seemed like it used to be a bad game would have an impact on the series to come. This maybe just because offense has been so up the last couple of years, but it seems like leaving a bad day in the past is more doable now than it has been in recent years.
Yeah, I would agree, Brian. I think I think this last series we were asking both the coaching staff and some of the players, do you believe in that, the old kind of phrase about momentum carrying from one game to the next? And I think it was Bruce Cassidy said he's not really the school that carries from one game to the next. He thinks every game is kind of its own chapter in the book, right? Now, I think individual players, if you get on a run either way, that I think they feel can carry over. You start to build some momentum as the series goes on. That can maybe bring you into the next game feeling pretty good about what you're doing, or the other way. If you're struggling, that can maybe bleed over into the next couple of games. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I like you. I kind of watched last night, and Jersey made it look pretty easy against Carolina, and Seattle handles Dallas pretty easily, and it's just kind of been that way for look back to the last series, guys, with the Golden Knights in Winnipeg. The first game was not close between the two teams, and then the Golden Knights were on the table after that. Now, all that being said, the Oilers are a much better team than the Jets, so the Golden Knights will have their hands full in terms of trying to respond tonight. But, I try to keep the bigger picture in mind. I mean, this is a team that, was number 1 in the West and, did a lot of damage and did a lot of good over a long stretch of the regular season. So I think you hope that you see that team again tonight.
Don't do any crowd surfing in that big mosh pit outside Rogers Place, because we may never see you again. I haven't decided now that if I'm going to watch the game from the mosh pit, I might do that. I might just watch it at the old Sherlock Holmes pub. Oh,
or
yeah.
Maybe I'll actually just sit in the press box.
I've got a table named after me on the second floor of that place.
Is that true?
Yeah. It's called Flat-Faced Mallard.
Oh. What's that called? What?
Flat-Faced Mallard.
No way. I'm definitely going in there now. After the game. Maybe after the game. I'm gonna find this now. This is great. I didn't think you were that popular in Canada, to be honest with you. That was table named after you.
I had a little stint in Edmonton back in the day, E-Town up on White Ave and then Sherlock. So I've done a tour or two around the country. Enjoy tonight. Looking forward to the response, and thanks for your insight being on the ground in Edmonton covering this one for us.
All right, boys. Have a good day.
There is Dave Gaucher. He'll be at Sherlock's. Have you ever been to Sherlock's?
I've never been to Edmonton.
Downtown
before.
Edmonton? Oh, really?
But I mean, now that I know that there's a table named after you, I wish I could. I would like to get some video or some flat-faced mallard. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I would like to get some sort of archival documentation of the naming ceremony, because
I'm not
you
sure
must
it
have
was
lived up to your namesake.
I'm not sure it was a pretty moment by any means at all. We've got Ashley Weiss standing by with Alec Martinez, and Bruce Cassidy is going to join us and just give his thoughts from his media availability as we continue on Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas. All right, Game 3 taking place tonight in Edmonton. Cheer for the Golden Knights at tonight's watch party at Circus Stadium Swim. Doors opening at 6 o'clock. The game starts just after 6:30. The evening will feature giveaways, raffle prizes, VGK authentic items available, 2023 Stanley Cup playoff tickets also being available for those raffles. Fans wearing VGK gear will receive free entry, and all guests, this is important, all guests must be 21 and over. For more information, visit VegasGoldenKnights.com. It's the Circus Stadium Swim Watch Party tonight, 5:30 p.m. 5:30 p.m. That is the difference on the start time tonight. We want to get to Bruce Cassidy coming up in just a little bit regarding tonight's contest against the Edmonton Oilers. This is a game that could go one of two ways. You get the craziness off the start, or it just becomes a hockey game.
Yeah, I kind of expect the latter, actually. I think after both teams have gotten a good shot in, you know you're going to get the most structured response from the VGK that you can. And I think it's going to behoove the VGK if the opportunity presents itself, like we saw Game 3 in Winnipeg, which got a little crazy towards the end. Yeah. But in the beginning, they quieted that place down quickly in the first period. And I think that's what the best thing the VGK can do is have a good start and make it feel ordinary, I think is the best thing they can do.
bounce-back game after losing 5-1 in the playoff opener. Vegas won 5 in a row. They'll try to start another streak tonight. Here's Bruce Cassidy ahead of Game 3.
Vince Sapienza by Vegas. I just mood in the room, getting set, reset for Game 3 tonight.
Yeah, listen, we weren't at our best Game 2, so we understand that. We talked about some things correct, like most teams do when they, it's not to their liking, and get better tonight.
Bruce, do you find your team, emotions got up last game? Is your team better when the stakes get increased as far as the energy level, emotion, a little nastiness in the game?
From the get-go, right? When it's 5-0, a lot of that happens throughout the playoffs in any series. To me, we need to get into the fight right away. Bring your emotion in terms of puck battles, winning your races, winning the slot battle, net front, all those things. That's when our emotion needs to be there for us, not when we fall behind and now want to, whatever teams do, right, to establish some territory, whatever, you know what I mean? It happens a lot. At the end of the day, we need to be emotionally engaged from, puck drop, and that's when we're at our best.
When McDavid and Draisaitl play together on the same line, what's the challenge for your group out there against them, just to kind of be aware of both guys as opposed to maybe just having to worry about one at a time if they're separated?
Well, even separated, to me, it's a similar animal. They're both dominant players. And the awareness of getting above in a hurry when you turn pucks over, even in the O-zone, if your point shot comes through and it gets knocked down, you got to be ready to get out, which is a little counterintuitive, right? When you're in the O-zone, you want to keep playing beyond pucks, but you got to be mindful of they can get away in a hurry. So that's where you got to be a little bit careful. Your line changes in the second period, any quick up and you're not catching them. How you manage the puck off the rush, if it's a lateral pass, we got into trouble at a couple of those the other night where they're going the other way. So you don't want to paralyze how you're going to play the game yourself. You still got to be in attack mode, but there is obviously a threat there that you have to be aware of. And sometimes, to me, that simple thing is shift length, so you have the energy. If you're reloading well and our defense, we tend to play rushes pretty well, then we'll end up meeting them in the slot or at the net if we do that. So to me, whether they're on the ice together or separate, like I said, it's still a very similar threat because they're both dangerous in open ice. McDavid seems to find Draisaitl more than maybe the other way around at times. I think he just has the puck a lot. That's probably why. But that's not going to affect how we check because McDavid can pass to Hyman, to Kane. There's a lot of different guys he can set up. So you got to be mindful of who his outlets are all the time when he has the puck. I think that's one of the better ways to play him is take away his outlets and hopefully you can keep him outside. It doesn't always work that way. You saw him get inside the other night on breakaways. So like I said, it's a tough challenge, but it is what it is in that area.
Bruce over here on your, just not when their power play is clicking at over almost 60%, does that affect maybe the way you guys, how hard you forecheck or how hard you play them physically, or is that you just got to stay on that right side of the line?
No, I think, some of the infractions we took the other day were high sticking, right? And there were puck battles, some of them, and your stick comes up. You got to be hard on your stick against this team. I think they'd say the same with us, so sometimes it comes up. So we've been a very good team this year, checking with our feet and our legs. We didn't take a lot of penalties. The last game was the exception. We got to get back to where closer to game one. I think we had 3 infractions, so that's reasonable. That was where we were during the year. I think a little less than that against Winnipeg, similar. So for us, you still got to play hard. You got to take the body when it's there. You got to get engaged in your puck battles. And just avoid the stick ones, right? Your stick can't get parallel in today's game, so use your feet. We've been pretty good at that. The other night, too many opportunities for them. Saw what happened.
So the other team's power play is pushing 60%, and all us media guys and everyone around the league is going ooh and ah and all that. Is it up to you guys?
You should. It's 60%, right? That's historic. Yeah. So I get it, why everyone's talking about it. It's just typically doesn't happen. That's why. Right.
Is the onus on Vegas to fix that?
Yes, absolutely. And we felt like we had a plan coming in to take away certain outlets, and they found other ones. They look for Hyman a lot more back post. That they have a lot of different. It's like a quarterback with his receivers, right? They're pretty good at going from 1, 2, 3, 4 and finding all their outlets. They're very good at it. That's why they function at such a high rate. They're not one-dimensional. So for us, part of it is we revisit it. We've revisited it now 3 times, right? Because it's good. So we'll try something else that maybe is more suitable to us and still take away some of the outlets. So, but that's the challenge. It was a challenge for LA. If Edmonton advances, it'll be a challenge for the next team. And part of that is staying out of the box, as we spoke of earlier, and we have to do a better job with that. And there's other ways. To me, it's zone time you can limit. So in the face-off circle, we need to win the draw as a group of 4. Entries, if we could be better. Again, McDavid's pretty tough to stop when he's in space. So there's different things you're going to try to do. Make sure you're 100% on your clears. But, we'd like to push him a little farther away from our net tonight. That's something we talked about because Bouchard's doing a good job when it's his turn to shoot. But we'll see how that plays out.
In terms of spending a little more time in the offensive zone, in the first round, you were kind of emphasizing, and you guys were having a lot of success in chipping it deep and trying to get possession that way. Do you want to see more of that tonight, or is it a different approach against this team?
No, we do. I think game 1 we did a good job. Great. Got a leg up on them and built on that. That's what we want to do. The other night, we didn't have the puck much, Jesse. We lost, I think, 70% of the draws in the first period. So when you're chasing the puck, it's hard to establish a forecheck. You're getting out of your own end, you're tired, you're changing, and they come back at you. So that's what happened the other night. They won all the races and battles, and it took us out of how we feel we can be successful. So we'll get back to that tonight. I mean, give them credit. They did a good job. They responded well. They're a good team. It's our turn now to do that.
You have a couple guys in your top 6, Marchessault and Smith, that haven't been scoring as much as they did in the regular season. Is there anything you could do to get that going?
Well, they haven't scored at all, right? So we've still won 5 games.
1 minute left.
So we feel that we have enough guys in their locker room that can score goals for us. Is there anything we can do? Yeah, we're going to give Marshy some more touches on the power play. They play similar spots. We can't, Jack's on the other elbow, so we'll switch them up. Maybe that helps Marsh get a few more looks at the net. At the end of the day, I think Marsh has been close. The last game, he had some good looks. His game, to me, is closer to scoring than maybe Riley's right now. I think Riley needs to get to the interior ice a little more often. The rush game hasn't been there that much for them. That's when typically him and Carly are good. Now, Amadio scored in game 1 off the rush, so there are some opportunities, but the onus becomes on the player when you're not scoring to put yourself in areas where you'll see more pucks. That's usually in the slot, that front, those areas. That's not a natural place for Riley, so he'll just have to keep playing through it. For me, help us win, right? If the goals will come eventually because of the
10
resume
seconds.
says they will. So that's what I believe if we play long enough. And that's what's been discussed with them.
Cassidy, from this morning's media availability in Edmonton prior to game number 3, half full. Marchessault and Smith haven't scored. You've won 5 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs without that. Whenever they do get hot and they start playing well, you've got that coming towards you. That's my rose-colored glasses looking.
Yeah, but with also a recognition that it's got to start coming soon. Yeah. That we're getting to that point now where if star power is driving them, then you need and Stevenson and Stone have carried that load, but now let's get more guys involved. Interesting what Bruce said though. He thinks Marceau's a little closer to his scoring game than maybe Riley Smith is. He needs to see Riley Smith get to the middle more. That's something that, again, I think is secondary opportunities. And when the Golden Knights are able to get in on the rush and push the defense back and in is what we saw in game 1. And that opens up the outside lanes. But then after that, how do you funnel to the front? I was looking before game 2. I think Stuart Skinner's given up, if I'm not mistaken, I think I was counting goals that were rebounds or pucks around his feet. Basically, pucks I think he should be able to sit on. He's given up 8 through the first 8 games of their playoff run. Now, it's not an astronomical number, I guess, but it's not that Stuart Skinner has been Velcro with pucks sticking to him. So traffic to the front, chaos in front, but also Riley Smith and Jonathan Marceau being in those areas. We saw Marceau, especially in game 1, a couple of opportunities where he's able to drive to the front. His legs are going, but there just needs to be a little bit more relentlessness in the attack, and that'll come.
I think everybody was wondering whether Laurent Brossoit would be back in for the second period in game number 2. He was after the 4-0 deficit. I looked at it and was thinking, Bruce Cassidy's optimistically pointing towards, we can get right back into this game. I'm leaving my guy in, and let's go. Let's try and find. Now, it didn't come to fruition, but we're seeing so many comebacks and so much offense in the National Hockey League. The Dallas Stars did the same thing yesterday with Jake Ottinger. There's an opportunity for your team to still get back into a game despite being down by a few.
It's a wherewithal to be patient. Now, again, that's also more so the fact when you fall behind significantly early too, but we've already seen the Oilers give up a 3-goal lead in these playoffs, and I think they've given up 3 multi-goal leads, I think. So there is the opportunity to be patient and to say, I'm sure the Hurricanes were thinking about yesterday in New Jersey. It didn't work out for them, but when Jordan Martinook scores the penalty shot goal, let's give this another beat. Let's get 2 or 3 shifts, see what it turns into. And it ran away from them again.
They
I
got
do
to
think
take
there's
more
more
penalties.
patience.
They got to take more penalties to capitalize on the shorthanded situation.
That's exactly it.
Like 4 shorthanded goals in that game, 3 of them by the Carolina Hurricanes. Edmonton had one the other night too.
Yeah.
They separated themselves in the special teams department, which Bruce Cassidy had to address. Certainly this morning, Alec Martinez is standing by. He is my voice of reason. Whenever you've got any type of drama going on, you go to him. He's the compass.
In a 1-1 series, we need the voice of reason.
Yes. Well, it's been that wild.
You're
of a
right.
Series
You're
through
not
2
wrong.
games
Yeah.
between the Evander Kane influence, which everybody could see coming. More surprised that it didn't happen in game number 1, and then the back and forth of the split. So he's standing by with Ashley Weiss. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Football's back in Vegas. The Nighthawks returning for their 2nd season. Brian McCormack, a big fan of that. Become a part of the Nighthawks family, and don't miss out on the action at the Dollar Loan Center in Henderson. What was the who for? Give us the background there.
That was just woo.
Yeah, there we
Just
go.
being a big fan.
Caca. Exactly. That's where I was going. Full season membership start at just $15 a ticket per game. For more information about tickets, venue, parking, and more, visit the nighthawksfootball.com. It's nighthawksfootball.com. Caca. We will be back with Alec Martinez and Ashley Weiss next on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Awesome that we get to do this in Studio 31. Daren Millard, Brian McCormack. We have a studio audience today. Kaylee, Songy are here. Floyd is behind. Ryan is behind the monitor. It's outstanding to have so many people looking forward to this Game 3 tonight. Is it a nervous feeling tonight? What do you think the heart of the Vegas Golden Knights fan base is feeling right now?
I'm not usually nervous when Kaylee and Songy watch us do this in the studio. The game tonight, I would say probably a little bit of not nervous. I think it's an eagerness to see a good start. I think that's what they like to see, a clean first 10 minutes. And again, we've heard Bruce say, like, hey, when we got into it emotionally, when it was 5-0, okay, well, it's 5-0. We got to be emotionally in from the get-go. So I'd say look for a little bit of conviction in the early going, and that's what I think fans want to see. It's not nervous. It's give us reassurance that the team we saw 5 days ago is the team we're going to see, and not the one that we saw 3 days ago. And I think that's likely.
When the wind starts blowing, I go to my compass for an idea of where the true north is, and that is Alec Martinez, who's standing by with Ashley Weiss in Edmonton.
Alec, first, I'm curious, as you look ahead to 4 nights here at the JW Marriott in Edmonton, does this feel like just another road trip, or does this bring back memories of 2020 and being here for about 2 months?
Yeah, it kind of feels like my second home, actually. It was kind of weird. I walked into the room today, and I don't know if it's the same room. You'd think that I'd remember. I'd spent so much time here, but it's the same configuration. So certainly brought back memories, but it was nice coming in here without pictures of my family and things like that, the little things that they tried to do to make it feel like home, because, we were obviously going to be here for an extended period of time. But yeah, I mean, I guess it gives you a little bit of flashback, but, nice knowing that, I guess you never know what could happen, but I imagine that we're probably not going to spend another 60 days in this hotel.
Yeah, hopefully something would go very wrong if that was the case. Which is one of the many experiences you've had as a veteran in this league. And as one of the veteran players, I'm curious kind of the journey of your thought process from the time the final horn sounds in a Game 2 like you had to when the puck drops on Game 3.
Well, I think that the easy thing to do is have a sense of panic. Maybe not panic, but just, I think that you got to look at it for what it is. There's going to be highs and lows throughout the playoffs, throughout a game, throughout a series. I think that there's obviously, a lot of things that we can learn from, and a lot of things that we have to do better. And one specifically is just our compete level. So while I look at it objectively, I'm not going to get too worked up over it. It's one game. That's why you play 7. And, I talked to a couple of guys, and it's, I don't think either team came into this series thinking that, they were going to get a sweep. That's just not, it's just not in the cards when you have 2 teams of this caliber, and you have to expect that, there's going to be ups and downs in a series. There's going to be bounces that go your way. There's going to be bounces that go their way, and you just got to maintain somewhat of an even keel and look at things constructively and figure out, a playoff series is much like a chess match too. They're going to make adjustments, we're going to make adjustments, and it's a constant back and forth. So, obviously we're not happy with the result, but at the same time, you can't dwell on it too much. The good thing is we have another opportunity tomorrow night.
Well, you mentioned being even keel. A phrase we've heard throughout the regular season is that this team is better once it gets drug into the fight. Did you feel like some of the things that happened last game were enough to have you in the fight to start Game 3?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at any playoff series, I think that they gradually get more emotional and there's animosity grows. There's certain things that happen when you just inherently play a team possibly 7 times in a row that, things are going to get a little testier. There's going to be more emotion involved. There's going to be, we saw a lot of fights last night. There's going to be heavy hitting. There's going to be all that. So I think that you've seen it all year. I think when we've been in situations like this, we've rise to the occasion. And, at the same time, we're going into their building. It's a tough place to play. They're going to come out and, bring their A game too. But that's the beauty of the playoffs and a playoff series against, 2 teams of our caliber. And, I said it time and time again, I'm very confident with the guys that we have in this room and strongly believe that we're going to come out in Game 3 and, play our best game.
You mentioned coming into a tough building. Why do you think it is that this group has so much success in these situations?
I don't know. I think that there's a lot of different things involved. I think there's, we have a group of guys that a lot of them have been through it before. I think we got a lot of guys who care. There's a lot of character on this team. There's guys that, there's the hunger to win. And I also think that guys are committed to, playing the right way and playing our game. I think, one of the hardest things to do, in this game is if, things aren't quite going your way, it's hard to stay patient in your game plan. But, it's only human nature to, want to try to change things or try to do more. And I mean, while there is room for changing things in adjusting game plans and X's and O's and things like that, your identity and the way that we play has been well established. We're not going to change the way that we play. So I think it's patience in that. And I think that the guys have done a good job, when faced with adversity this year. You look back at that New York trip where I think that was kind of a turning point right before the All-Star break that, I thought a lot of those games we played well enough to win and we didn't, but sometimes that's what you need. And we were able to, bounce back when we came back from that break. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I would say that, our record was probably in terms of, whatever, a 20-game stretch is probably up there with the best 20-game stretch that we had all year. So, I mean, we've felt, adversity before, and it's much like game one of the playoffs when we, dropped the first game to Winnipeg. It's a similar feeling. You gotta trust your own game, and in a building like this, you're gonna have to come in and try to dictate the pace of play and establish your game because they certainly are too.
Good luck, Alec. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Ashley Weiss and Alec Martinez are part of the VGK Today content on that daily podcast that all the VGK broadcasters are taking a turn at, including Brian McCormack. Does he not sound like somebody that you just grab onto in a time of high drama and all kinds of swings of emotion?
Yeah, he's the rockin' stormy seas, no question. But I think that's something that's so that resonates in that conversation. I actually talked to Bruce Cassidy about it during the Winnipeg series after, I think it was before Game 3, and it was, I think fans sometimes make the mistake of thinking, oh, we have Cup winners on our roster, Alec Martinez, Alex Pietrangelo. We have guys with Stanley Cup pedigree, and they think that means that outings like Game 2 aren't going to happen. That's not where the value is. The value is, do you respond properly after those setbacks happen? And I think that's what you heard Alec Martinez saying, is like, we've got the guys in the room, we have the mentality, guys who have been through this before, we know we're going to be ourselves for Game 3 and bring the game that we need to have. That's where that value comes in.
It's funny. Perspective is incredibly valuable at this time of the year. Look at what Toronto's going through right now, down 3-0 to the Florida Panthers after finally getting over the hump. The Seattle Kraken exploded against the Dallas Stars, and they are closing in on being halfway there. Connor Bedard draft lottery. It's not officially the Connor Bedard draft lottery, but the draft lottery takes place later on this afternoon. What's your prediction on where he ends up?
I think he goes to Philly, wild card throw in there. If he goes to Anaheim and they have Drysdale and Zegras and McTavish, that's just not fair. So just try to keep him away from Anaheim.
The puck will never hit the ice there because they'll be doing all their trick shots and flips and backhands and all that kind of stuff. That's at 5 o'clock. The Circus Swim, Stadium Swim doors open at 4 o'clock. 5:30 is the game time. The Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers. Game 3. Coming your way on Fox Sports Las Vegas, and the television side is ESPN. Enjoy the game.